The moment Lily pointed her tiny finger at the woman in the coffee shop, James felt his world shift on its axis. "Dad, marry her," his 5-year-old daughter announced with the unwavering confidence only a child could possess. The stranger's coffee cup froze midway to her lips, her eyes widening as they locked with James. Neither of them could have possibly imagined how those 3 simple words would change their lives forever. If you're touched by this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming real-life stories that remind us of the unexpected ways love finds us when we least expect it. James Morgan had been raising Lily alone since she was 18 months old. The day his wife Sarah told him she wasn't cut out for motherhood and walked out had left him shattered, but determined to give his daughter the most loving upbringing possible. At 32, he'd settled into a routine that revolved entirely around Lily: morning rushes to kindergarten, his work as a graphic designer from their modest apartment, evening story times, and weekend adventures at the park. "Daddy, why don't I have a mommy like other kids?" Lily had asked one night as James tucked her into bed, her innocent question piercing his heart. "Some families are different, sweetheart," he'd explained, smoothing her dark curls away from her forehead. "Some have a mommy and daddy, some have 2 mommies or 2 daddies, and some, like us, have just one parent who loves them enough for 2. Lily had seemed satisfied with his answer, but James noticed how her eyes lingered on mothers at the playground, how she watched families with 2 parents with quiet curiosity. Though he gave her everything he couldn't deny the empty space in their lives, one he'd stopped believing would ever be filled after a string of disastrous dates with women who either couldn't handle a ready-made family or saw him as a project to fix. The morning that changed everything had started like any other Saturday. James had taken Lily to their favorite coffee shop, Beans and Books, where he could enjoy his latte while she colored at their usual corner table. He'd been so focused on helping her with a particularly challenging purple unicorn that he hadn't noticed the woman who'd entered until Lily's crayon clattered to the floor. "Dad," Lily whispered, her voice unusually serious as she pointed. "That lady has the same smile as me in the pictures with Mommy." James followed her gaze to a woman standing in line, tall with chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing a paint-splattered denim jacket over a simple dress. There was something striking about her, not conventional beauty perhaps, but a warmth that radiated from her animated expressions as she chatted with the barista. "She's pretty," James acknowledged, turning back to the coloring book. "Now, what color should we use for the unicorn's mane?" But Lily wasn't interested in unicorns anymore. Her eyes remained fixed on the woman who had now received her order and was looking for a place to sit in the crowded cafe. When the stranger glanced their way, Lily did something she'd never done before: she waved enthusiastically. The woman smiled and waved back, that simple exchange seeming to delight Lily beyond reason. James felt a mixture of embarrassment and amusement at his daughter's sudden sociability with a complete stranger. "Lily, it's not polite to stare," he gently admonished. "But Daddy, she has kind eyes," Lily insisted with the wisdom sometimes found in children. "Like in your stories where you know the good characters because their eyes are kind." James couldn't argue with that logic, so he returned to his coffee, expecting the moment to pass. But when the woman had to walk past their table to reach the only available seat, Lily reached out and tugged at her dress. "Hi. I'm Lily. I'm 5. This is my dad. He makes the best pancakes in the world." "Lily." James felt his face flush with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," he said to the woman. "She's not usually this forward." The woman laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to fill the space around them. "No apologies needed. I'm honored to hear about the pancake expertise." She crouched down to Lily's level. "I'm Elena. I'm 30, and I can't make pancakes to save my life. They always end up looking like sad little frisbees." Lily giggled delightedly, and before James could intervene, she had invited Elena to join them because it's sad to drink coffee alone. To his surprise, Elena accepted with a gracious smile, pulling up a chair. "Is this okay?" she asked James, seeming genuinely concerned she might be intruding. Of course, he found himself saying, though he'd avoided social interactions like this for years. Elena, they soon learned, was an art therapist who had recently moved to the area to work with children at the local hospital. As she spoke about her work, her face lit up with passion, and James found himself drawn to her authenticity. There was no pretense, no carefully constructed persona, just a woman who clearly loved what she did and spoke about it with refreshing honesty. Lily was completely captivated, especially when Elena pulled out a small sketchbook and showed her quick drawings of animals she'd made for her patients. When Elena offered to draw something for Lily, the little girl's request was immediate: "Can you draw me and Daddy and a mommy?" James felt his stomach drop. "Lily, that's not." "It's okay," Elena said softly, understanding flickering in her eyes. She began to sketch, her pencil moving deftly across the paper. When she turned the sketchbook around, she had drawn a little girl holding hands with a tall man, but instead of drawing a mother figure, she had sketched a thought bubble above the girl's head with various female figures: a teacher, a doctor, an artist, a superhero. "See," Elena explained to Lily, "families come in all different shapes. And little girls like you get to be surrounded by all kinds of amazing women who can teach you different things and love you in different ways." James felt something tighten in his chest as he watched his daughter's face light up with understanding. Elena had navigated a potentially awkward moment with such grace and thoughtfulness that he found himself studying her with new interest. Their coffee extended into shared muffins, and when Lily needed to use the restroom, James escorted her, returning to find Elena still waiting, though she'd had every opportunity to make a polite exit. "You didn't have to stay," he said, sliding back into his seat. "I wanted to," she replied simply. "Your daughter is wonderful. You're doing an amazing job with her." The compliment, delivered without the usual undertone of surprise that a man could parent effectively, caught him off guard. "Thank you. It's not always easy." "The best things rarely are," Elena said, her eyes meeting his with understanding that felt earned rather than assumed. When Lily returned, bouncing with energy, she looked between the two adults with a calculating expression that James had learned to be wary of. "Dad," she announced with absolute conviction, pointing directly at Elena. "Marry her." The coffee shop seemed to go silent, though James knew it was just the rush of blood in his ears. Elena's coffee cup froze midway to her lips, her eyes widening as they locked with his. For a moment, neither adult could speak. Then Elena broke the tension with a gentle laugh. "Well, that's quite a proposal, but I think your dad and I might need to get to know each other a bit better first." "Like dating?" Lily asked, her face serious. "Maddie's mom and dad date, and they were already married before." James wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. "Lily, we don't say things like that to people we've just met. It's not polite to." "Actually," Elena interrupted, her cheeks flushed but her gaze steady, "I would like to get to know you both better. Maybe we could meet here again? Or somewhere more kid-friendly?" The sincerity in her voice silenced James's automatic refusal. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of possibility. "We're going to the Children's Museum tomorrow," he heard himself saying. "Lily loves the butterfly garden there." "Butterflies are my favorite too," Elena said, her smile directed at Lily but her eyes finding their way back to James. As they exchanged numbers, James couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, that his daughter's impulsive words had somehow opened a door he'd long ago closed. The museum visit the next day could have been awkward, but Elena arrived with a natural ease that dispelled any tension. She came prepared with sketching materials for Lily and a genuine enthusiasm for the exhibits that matched his daughter's excitement. James found himself relaxing in her company, appreciating how she engaged with Lily without trying to force a connection or overstepping boundaries. "She's not trying to be my mommy," Lily observed thoughtfully on the drive home, surprising James with her perception. "But I like her anyway." That became the pattern of their early relationship. Elena entered their lives with respect for what they had built together, never pushing to replace what was lost but adding her own unique presence. Their coffee shop meetings became regular, then expanded to picnics in the park, movie nights at James's apartment, and weekend adventures exploring the city. James learned that Elena had her own complicated history, a broken engagement 2 years earlier that had left her wary of relationships, a childhood spent moving between foster homes that had taught her the value of creating family wherever you could find it. She spoke about these things not as wounds that defined her, but as experiences that had shaped her understanding of what mattered. "I used to think love was about finding the perfect person," she told him one evening as they sat on his balcony after Lily had gone to bed. "Now I think it's about finding someone who sees your imperfections and chooses to stay anyway." 3 months into their relationship, the first major challenge arose. Sarah, Lily's mother, suddenly reappeared with claims of wanting to reconnect with her daughter. James was thrown into turmoil, torn between protecting Lily from potential abandonment again and acknowledging her right to know her mother. Elena stepped back, giving him space to navigate the complicated legal and emotional terrain, but offering support whenever he reached for it. When he finally decided to allow supervised visits, it was Elena who suggested a gentle way to prepare Lily. "Children are resilient," she reminded him. "But they need honesty delivered with love. She deserves to know where she comes from, even if that person couldn't be what she needed before." The first meeting with Sarah was tense, the woman a stranger to the child she had left. Lily was uncharacteristically shy, clinging to James's hand as Sarah awkwardly attempted to connect. When Lily asked if she could call Elena to tell her about the new dolls Sarah had brought, the pain that flashed across Sarah's face was unmistakable. Later, when Sarah pulled James aside, her words surprised him. "She needs a mother who's present," she said quietly. "I can see now that's not me. I'm not in a place to be what she needs, but it looks like someone else might be." The acknowledgement was both a gift and a burden. When James shared the conversation with Elena that night, her response was measured. "Lily has room in her heart for many people who love her. I would never try to replace her mother, but I will always be here for her, and for you, if you want me to be." It was the first time either of them had come close to discussing a future together, and James found himself imagining possibilities he'd long since abandoned. 6 months into their relationship, Elena received an offer for a prestigious position at a children's hospital across the country, a dream opportunity that would advance her career significantly. She told James immediately, her face a mixture of excitement and distress. "I haven't given them an answer," she said. "I wanted to talk to you first." "You have to take it," James said automatically, though the thought of losing her made his chest ache. "It's everything you've worked for." Elena studied his face. "Is that what you want? For me to go?" The question hung between them, forcing James to confront what he truly wanted. For years, he'd protected himself and Lily by keeping people at a distance, convinced that anyone who came into their lives would eventually leave. Elena had slipped past those defenses, becoming essential to both of them in ways he hadn't allowed himself to acknowledge. "No," he finally admitted. "That's not what I want at all." The relief on her face was immediate. "Then ask me to stay." "It's not fair to you," he protested. "Your career." "Life isn't just about careers," Elena interrupted. "It's about choices and priorities. You and Lily, you've become my priority. But I need to know if that's mutual." The vulnerability in her voice gave him courage. "Stay," he said simply. "Not just for now, but for everything that comes next. Lily and I both want you in our lives permanently." Elena's smile was radiant. "Is this your version of, Dad, marry her?" James laughed, the tension breaking. "Maybe it is. Though I was planning something a bit more romantic than a conversation about job offers." 2 weeks later, he proposed properly, not with a grand gesture, but during one of their regular Sunday mornings at home, Lily helping to carry the tray with coffee and the ring box hidden beneath a napkin. When Elena opened it, her hands trembling slightly, Lily was the one who asked, "Will you be part of our family forever?" Elena's yes was for both of them. They married in the coffee shop where they'd met, the owner delighted to host the small ceremony. Lily served as both flower girl and self-appointed matchmaker of honor, proudly telling anyone who would listen that she had picked Elena especially for her dad. The wedding photographer captured the moment that would later go viral, James kneeling to Lily's height as she straightened his tie, while Elena watched them with such love that it seemed to radiate from the image. When they shared it on social media with the caption, "When your 5-year-old plays matchmaker and gets it right," they were unprepared for how widely it would resonate. Their story spread, touching people who saw in it hope for second chances and the wisdom of children. Interview requests came from local news, then national programs wanting to feature their unconventional path to becoming a family. "People are drawn to your story because it's authentic," one interviewer told them. "In a world of carefully curated relationships, you three found each other through a child's simple observation." The attention was overwhelming at times, but they navigated it together, always prioritizing Lily's well-being and the privacy of their family life. They used their unexpected platform to support organizations helping single parents and children in foster care, causes close to both their hearts. A year into their marriage, they faced their greatest challenge when Elena was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that required intensive treatment. The roles reversed, with James becoming her support system through difficult months of medication adjustments and fatigue. "You could have signed up for a healthier model," Elena joked weakly during a particularly rough day. "I signed up for you," James replied, holding her hand. "All of you, in sickness and in health. I meant that." Lily, now 7, showed the same resilience and compassion that had always characterized her, making feel-better cards, and learning to help with small tasks around the house. One evening, James overheard her telling her stuffed animals, "Sometimes Elena needs extra love, just like Daddy did before she came. That's what families do, they take turns being strong for each other." The wisdom in his daughter's words humbled him, reminding him of how far they had all come. As Elena's health stabilized with proper treatment, they began discussing expanding their family. The conversations were complex, weighing Elena's health considerations against their desire to give Lily siblings. When they finally decided to pursue adoption, it felt like coming full circle, creating family through choice rather than chance. The day they brought home twins, a boy and girl who had been in foster care for most of their 3 years, was chaotic and emotional. Lily immediately embraced her role as big sister, showing them around with solemn responsibility. That night, after the younger children were finally asleep, the three of them sat together on the porch swing. "Did I do good, Dad?" Lily asked suddenly. "When I picked Elena that day?" James pulled his daughter close, meeting his wife's eyes over Lily's head. The journey from that coffee shop moment to this porch with their expanded family hadn't been straightforward or easy, but it had been profoundly right. "You did better than good," he told her. "You saw something the rest of us needed to be reminded of, that sometimes the family we need is right in front of us, if we're brave enough to reach for it." Elena wiped away a tear as she joined their embrace. "And sometimes," she added softly, "the wisest people in the room are the smallest ones." 5 years after that fateful coffee shop encounter, their story continues to inspire others. James and Elena now run a foundation supporting blended families and children in the foster system, sharing their experience that family is defined not by blood but by love, choice, and commitment renewed each day. Their journey reminds us all that sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the simplest source, a child who sees with her heart what adults might miss with their eyes. And that sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with grand gestures or perfect timing, but with 3